The other day, I got this DM. No, not that DM. There we go, that DM. And I gotta tell you boys, after thinking about it, this is actually way harder to answer than I initially thought. Let's go over why. So, as of right now, we have 6 Rocket Frame Sidearms in D2. Technically 7 if you want to be a D-bag about it. Oh, I can see the YouTube comments now. But no, 6 Rocket Frame Sidearms total. I want to be clear, we're doing this process for PvE only today. I do not now, nor will I likely ever use Rocket Frame Sidearms in PvP unless they happen to get a major rework, which I'm not really asking for. Rocket Frame Sidearms are champions in PvE though, which I'll explain why on the off chance that there's any new or returning D2 players out there who wandered in to watch today's video. Rocket Frame Sidearms are goated in PvE because 1, they are respectable crowd clearing machines, but more importantly, 2, they have incredibly generous ammo economy. I probably shouldn't say much else on that front because Bungie has already tried to take a whack at nerfing special sidearms, which doesn't seem to have had much of an effect. Therefore, the smart money says they may in fact be winding up for a future round 2. But hey, until that happens, let's review. Regarding my personal ranking process, this is going to be extremely difficult. Have you ever seen a video from a YouTuber I love named CGP Grey where he ranks all of the US state flags? I swear to God, it sounds boring, but it's highly entertaining. Do me a favor, watch it later. But because so many state flags look totally horrendous, in his opinion, he actually has to sub-categorize them into multiple sub-F tiers. We're going to do something similar today, but in the opposite direction. That is to say, Rocket Frame Sidearms are so stupid good in PvE that we are going to rank them into different multiple S tiers. Translation: all Rocket Sidearms are high tier weapons at the end of the day, but some are just a little bit higher. Starting off in the S- tier, and it pains me to do this, but our lowest ranked sidearm is Buried Bloodline. The Bloodline was the second Rocket Frame sidearm we ever got, and during its heyday, I was very much a big fan. However, while still great, the Bloodline has a lot of competition these days. Its most unique feature, of course, is that it can grant the wielder Devour, which is quite handy. Unfortunately, it does take 4 red bar kills to activate, which is still good, but kind of an annoyingly big number when compared with another option we'll get to later. Don't get me wrong, free healing is good, but right now in D2, we have so much access to free healing without needing to use an exotic weapon slot. Heal clip, healing grenades, certain exotic armor like Speaker's Sight, recuperation, better already, feed the void, knockout, and it goes on. Most meta builds these days all have easy access to immediate healing on demand, which takes away some polish from the Bloodline. Also, you may not have known this, but Buried Bloodline has slightly weaker damage output than other legendary sidearms. Against red bars, Buried Bloodline does 17,164 damage on a headshot and 14,233 on a body shot. Other legendary rocket frames, though, deal 18,284 on a headshot and 15,162 on a body shot. Granted, the Bloodline does do more damage to mini-bosses like Carl, but since most of the time I'm using Rocket Frame Sidearms in PvE, I'm kinda using them as a primary weapon. I value more damage to red bars than I do to mini-bosses. Besides, mini-bosses are less frequent and they're also prime targets for hard-hitting abilities or even heavy ammo. Finally, Buried Bloodline is an exotic, which actually works against it in my personal ratings. See, if I use any of the other legendary Rocket Frame Sidearms, it means I can put a different exotic weapon into my build. Tractor Cannon, Queen Breaker, Grand Overture, it doesn't matter. The point is, if I'm using the Bloodline, I'm using my exotic slot on a good weapon, but there are other potentially stronger options that don't eat up my exotic slot. For all of those reasons, I'm putting the Bloodline in S- tier. Stepping up to regular S tier, why don't we talk about Tinasha's Mastery? I feel like most people I know use Tinasha for one reason and one reason alone, and that is Chill Clip. I can't deny at all that Chill Clip is extremely fun and very efficient at dealing with literally every kind of champion in the game. Overload and Unstoppable get handled by Chill Clip straight up, but remember, you can technically break barrier champs with Tinasha if you also happen to be Radiant at the time. Or if you have anti-barrier sidearm turned on the artifact, which we have access to right now in episode Heresy. But yeah, I think Tinasha is definitely a winner in most player books, especially for champion fighting or any kind of build that revolves around slowing or freezing a target. But I kinda want my Rocket Frame sidearm to succeed more at crowd control rather than single target damage. Other players might disagree, and that is fine, but for that reason, I'm putting Tinasha in regular S tier. For our final 4 sidearms, we have a big challenge because IMO, all of them belong in S+ tier, so the only real question is, Which one goes at the tippy top? But before we talk about that, did you know that in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war? Which is another way of saying today's video is brought to you by Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. So why don't we thank them real quick? Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus is an exciting turn-based tactical strategy game set in the eternal conflict of Games Workshop's Warhammer 40,000 universe. It is fast-paced tactical battlefield gameplay in the palm of your hand. Assemble and lead 70+ legendary Warhammer champions from 17 playable factions into combat. And if you're asking for my opinion, I officially recommend you go with the Space Wolves faction, for no reason other than who wouldn't want to be a giant man wolf? No, not like that. Get that out of here. Yeah, like that. Fight against or strategize with other players in high-stakes battles, all in a game where the developers keep introducing fresh content, exciting features, new game modes, and challenging events. With an average rating of 4.5 in the app stores, Tacticus is the go-to game for top-quality tactical gaming. Don't wait. Check out my link down in the pinned comment to check out Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus today. Alrighty, we are back, and starting off in S+ tier, we have Indebted Kindness. Although it was the first Rocket Frame we ever got, it's held up remarkably well. And even though I think that Indebted's perk pool overall isn't as strong as the other options in S+ tier, I think its strongest perks do shine so brightly that the gun is worthy of being up here on the top shelf. And we definitely already know what those perks are. First up, Lead from Gold. Free special ammo from any heavy brick you pick up is incredibly useful, especially in the double special loadouts that rocket sidearms are frequently featured in. Then you have Volt Shot. Volt Shot, as we all know, is a free jolt proc on any kill after a reload, which is never not handy. After you've procced it, you can either have the freest ad clear of your life or get bonus damage on chunkier boss type enemies if need be. You can even save a little extra ammo if you want. Activate Volt Shot, proc it on a nearby big boy, then light them up with primary ammo damage, if you're not using double special that is, to repeatedly proc Jolt. Fun times. If Bungie ever decides to come from Lead from Gold in one way or another in the future, by the way, then you can always fall back on Impulse Amplifier, which gives two things any rocket sidearm user loves: velocity and reload speed. Again, not a ton of highly viable perks here, but its strong perks are strong, and that's why I have it up on the top shelf. Moving on in S+ tier, we come to the Call, which, surprise, surprise, also has Lead from Gold. When it really comes down to it, any Rocket Frame sidearm, either now or that we get in the future, if it has Lead from Gold, automatic S tier from me. However, if you feel that you already have a strong handle on your special ammo economy, the Call has another fantastic option in the form of Slice. Slice is practically a free sever on any target. Just use your class ability and go to town. That'll help you out a ton with debuffing, reducing enemy damage output, and just generally having really good high uptime and good utility. One of my favorites is definitely a less used but very handy perk, Desperate Measures. Getting a kill gives you a small 10% damage buff, but if you get either a melee or grenade kill, then that jumps up to 2 stacks, then another will max you out at ×3 for a very schmexy plus 30% damage buff. Granted, that isn't the highest damage buff you can get on this gun, but I very much love the fact that with Desperate Measures, you can keep re-procking the damage buff timer every time you get a kill, which is great. I think most players, though, including myself, have fallen back onto One for All. The damage buff is stronger at plus 35%, but the best part of all is that it's truly brain turn off mode. One for All is far easier to proc than Desperate Measures, and even though you can't refresh the damage timer every time you get a kill, it's just so straightforward to take advantage of that everybody loves it, and I can't argue. Especially this season where we have some nice strand bonus artifact mods like Unraveling Orbs or Horde Shuttle to give you extra nice unravel and threadlings on a hit. All gravy. TLDR, many good options including ammo management and extra damage output, very worthy of S+ tier IMO. Okay, we're down to the final two, and again, I want to reiterate, we are kind of really getting into the realm of splitting hairs and total personal preference. Every rocket frame in S+ tier is awesome and likely to change based on certain conditions, which we'll talk about at the very end. But next up, we have Aberrant Action. Solar, craftable, and fantastic. Like Indebted Kindness, out of all the role options on the table, there's only a few that truly catch my eye, but the perks that do are great at what they do. In my mind, there's kind of 4 total: Pugilist, Heel Clip, Demolitionist, and Incandescent. All 4 are stellar, but if you're really gonna put a gun to my head, it's gotta be Heel Clip and Incandescent.
But Fallout, you said earlier that we had a lot of healing options already, and that's why the Bloodline wasn't appealing.
True. However, let's compare. Buried Bloodline requires 4 kills to activate Devour versus Heal Clip, which can help you after just 1 kill, and not only you, but nearby allies as well. Not to mention, Aberrant doesn't take up our exotic slot and also does more damage to red bars than the Bloodline. Case closed. Pugilist and Demo are very dependent on your build and what abilities you want to farm energy for, but you just can't go wrong with incandescent crowd control and heal clip survivability. Which, of course, means that our final sidearm today is the Adept Lotus-Eater. Again, this is basically all personal preference at this point, but I just love this gun. Ever since the buff to destabilizing rounds, I've been dangerously addicted to void explosions, so getting a brand new Rocket Frame Sidearm featuring that perk was basically crack for me. There are many good options in column 3 for the Lotus-Eater, including Feeding Frenzy, Reconstruction, and the always fun Shoot to Loot. But I really gotta give it up for the basic bitch roll in the form of destabilizing rounds paired together with Repulsor Brace. With these 2 perks together, you're basically guaranteed free head empty crowd control along with repeated overshield application. And don't forget, Lotus-Eater also has a pretty sweet origin trait in the form of Vanguard's Vindication. Yeah, the amount of health you get back per kill is laughably low and not to be heavily leaned on as your only form of health regen. That being said, it does all add up, and it's literally always helping you out for no cost at all. Final thing that wins a few extra points in my book, Lotus-Eater can be adept, meaning you can give it unique weapon mods that other guns can't have. Even though most people will probably slap a backup mag mod on it, which is fine, the option for customization remains there, especially if we get more adept weapon mods in the future. It's really important to note that, again, all of this is just my personal preference, but more importantly, just because I love Lotus-Eater most out of the batch by a hair doesn't mean it'll always be the go-to every time for every situation. Remember, different activities may or may not have surge modifiers, which will definitely affect your preference for what sidearm you're gonna use. And maybe the biggest factor of all are artifacts. The options we have available on our artifact drastically change the combat flavor from episode to episode. Right now, in particular, Void is eaten pretty good thanks to a few key options on our artifact, but if and when that changes, so too shall my list. So enjoy eating good while you can right now, Lotus-Eater, you beautiful bastard. If you strongly disagree with my list, which of course is impossible, everybody knows that nobody fights in the YouTube comment section, leave me a comment down below of why you think so. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.